What's up, boys and girls? Thank you very much for clicking on the thumbnail. Welcome back if you've been a long-time viewer, and welcome if you're brand new. Just like the thumbnail says, this video is all about understanding Ruben. At least most of it is. It's about understanding what Ruben's trying to do and his tactics. If you've been with me for a long time, this is kind of like going to be a review for you. We're going to cover almost everything that we've already covered in my past videos. And if you're new, you're going to love this. This is going to be one hell of a show for you. And if you're the type of person who's thinking Rúben Amorim out, or he needs to change his style, he needs to try a different formation or whatever, I think this is going to help explain what he's trying to do and why it's so important that we actually stick to his style, because it is very, very good in a lot of ways, and it's actually very easy to do the things he wants us to do. But before we go on and before I get to my main point, I just want to remind everybody that I'm going live for the very first time this Friday, 2 days from now. I'm doing this on Tuesday night. It's almost midnight my time. We're doing this 2 days from now on Friday at 9:30 a.m. Los Angeles Pacific Standard Time, which is 5:30 p.m. England, UK time on bigup.com. If you're around, if you're available, join me over there. I need to get some viewers over there. It's my first live. I don't want to go live and not have anybody there. I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing it for me. What I mean by that is I've had a lot of people who say, like, why don't you go live? They want to ask questions. You want to comment. This is perfect. This is kind of like a test run for me. Again, it's my first time. I'm probably going to make a whole lot of mistakes, but I'm going to do my best. And also I'm going to have people, if you have a camera on your computer, I can even invite you on Big Up to like talk to me directly and ask your question on video, or you can just chat your question to me and we'll talk. Now, if I get enough viewers on bigup.com, which isn't even that much, I just have to get like 25 viewers. If I can get 25 viewers on bigup.com or more, then by the following week when I go live again, they're going to give me access to their tools so that I actually can have the video footage of our past games, and I can start to like show you guys the tactic stuff that I love to do in my YouTube videos over there on video, and you guys could be asking me questions and I can show it to you live. Whereas on YouTube, if I went live, I would only be able to do that with photos, not videos, if you know what I mean. And I'm sure you guys have seen YouTube videos where all you see is a photo and someone draws all over the photos. Whereas on Big Up, you can actually use some video. So it'll be cool. So join me on Friday at bigup.com, 9:30 a.m. Los Angeles time, 5:30 p.m. UK time. There is a post with the link on the community post on my YouTube channel. If you also, I will try to put the link on the description of this video. Now, let's get back to the tactics talk. This is going to be the best of tactics stuff, I guess, that I've done in past videos, so that from now on, when I have a new viewer, I don't have to say, go watch this video, then that video, then that video, so you can keep up with me and my regular viewers. So this is the best of. This kind of puts together everything, and if you're new to the channel, like I said, you're going to love this. I don't talk about the same things that other tactics videos talk about. Usually their structure, our pressing structure, or how our formation and how our team is supposed to be moving, or our shape. I don't talk about that. I talk about chance creation, what Rúben Amorim's trying to do, the spaces he's trying to exploit, and the things that you should be looking for when you watch our games. Let's get right into it. For those of you who don't want to watch it again because maybe you've already seen it in the past and you don't want to go sit through it again, just skip ahead. This video is timestamped. I do talk about new things towards the end of the video called current events. So look for the timestamp that says current events and just skip right there. If not, check it out. I liked editing this. It was fun for me. So maybe even if you have seen it, it'll be a fun review for you to sit through. And I promise I did my best to edit it short so it doesn't feel long-winded. Guys, I will see you on the other side. Wait, I forgot to say that if you're a regular viewer, hit the like button. Let's get the likes up. Let's get 1,000 likes. Let's get this video popping. Let's get YouTube's algorithm to share this video with 100,000 people at least. I know not all of them are going to click on the thumbnail, but let's get the likes up so that we even have a chance. Thank you so much. And all right, let's run the compilation. I'll see you soon on the other side of this compilation. Rúben Amorim's teams score in 3 different ways from what I saw in the sporting team. One is crosses. Crosses. Rúben Amorim's sporting team was averaging 20 crosses per game, so get used to seeing a lot of crosses. The problem is, though, our crossers suck at delivering crosses. Whether the cross is in the air or on the ground, it's still considered a cross. You're starting to see our team cross a lot more often. Actually, in the FCSB game, we scored a goal off one of those crosses. Another way they score a lot of goals is quick interchange of passes to the inside 10s and the striker, basically just being able to like telepathically know where each other's going to go, using 1-2s, give and goes, And you can see right here, they just are magnificent at that, and they create these deadly chances, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's probably my favorite way of watching a team score a goal, but unfortunately, we're not good at it. Every time we try a give and go or a 1-2, it's like the runner doesn't go or the pass is really bad, and that's what you saw in this last game. But it's good to see that we are trying to do things like that, and maybe we are going to get better at it. The third way that they scored a lot of goals are with a player running with the ball all the way down to the end line and making a cutback pass for someone in the middle of the box to score on. Because when you run down to the end line, the defense has to move, because if your ball is farther down, deeper than them, all the defensive line is going to move all the way down, because they don't want to be on the wrong side of the ball. Hence, when you cross it really hard across the goal, they end up scoring an own goal, or your striker gets an easy tap in. So they're going to run down, which opens up space for a millisecond or a second right in the middle of the box by the penalty area. The cutback pass comes in there, and someone has already attacked that space to score. One of the inside 10s or the striker himself will get the ball and run it all the way to the end line and cut it back for a Menu, who just actually scored a goal doing this exact same thing in the last game. So it is something you're starting to see us do more often. I mentioned these things 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, before we were doing any of these things, and now you're actually starting to see it come together. Let's put that aside and talk about how they advance the ball forward to even create one of those 3 chances. And that's with diagonal runs. I've said this before on a past video, but I never showed you guys examples and broke it down for you. And that's what I want to break down for you today, because I'm watching for diagonal runs when I watch our team play, and I'm seeing the worst runs ever, I'm also not seeing enough of them, because the diagonal runs that Rúben Amorim's sporting team did were relentless. They were over and over again by the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. They were nonstop. They would just continuously keep happening until the ball moves into a different space, and then a different diagonal run keeps happening until you could create a chance of one of those 3 things that I said: either a good cross, a cutback pass, or it opens up space in the center, where then you can put it in the center for those 3 attackers to exchange passes quickly to create a goal. So here's a example of a simple diagonal run by Gyökeres, so that the midfielder can pass him the ball and advance it all the way into the opponent's third. That's a simple diagonal run happening from inside to out. Most of the diagonal runs do happen from inside out, by the way. Sometimes it happens from the winger in or the outside in, but most of them are from the inside to out. That's important to remember too. So that was a simple little diagonal run to advance the ball up the sideline into the opponent's third, as I just showed you with Gyökeres. Let me show you the importance of diagonal run by showing you some sporting clips first. In this first example I want to show you, it's an example of a diagonal run that doesn't even get used. In this example, the inside 10 passes to the wingback and then makes that diagonal run to the outside. Now the wingback decides not to pass, and then the other player also makes a diagonal run because there's a space open behind the defenders. Again, I think the wingback should have passed, but it doesn't matter. The wingback decides not to pass and he crosses instead, which is another way Rúben Amorim teams play, and they get the goal. The point is this: the diagonal runs were happening whether they get used or not, and they're constant. Here's another example. In this example, it starts with one of the midfielders passing to the wingback and then making the diagonal run. He gets the ball back eventually, and then the inside 10 makes the same kind of diagonal run, and the midfielder finds him, and then he dribbles all the way to the end line and takes a shot. Again, 2 diagonal runs in a row. In this example, the wide player has the ball, and one of the inside 10s is going to make this diagonal run. The wide player chooses not to make that pass and instead dribbles inside where the space has opened up. And now Gyökeres is going to make the same kind of diagonal run, and this time the wide player actually passes him the ball. As soon as Gyökeres gains control of this ball, he's going to decide to run all the way down or dribble down to the end line to then set up a cutback pass, another one of the things Rúben Amorim teams love to do. And as soon as he starts to run to the end line, the other forward now starts to run as hard as he can, because he knows what's coming, to the inside post or to the front post, and he has to cut off the defender too to make sure that defender has no chance of touching the ball before him. Goal. Now, unfortunately, guys, I'm going to show you an example of what happens when we have possession and how bad our decision making is. Here's an example where Mazraoui actually has the ball, and it starts with Ahmad already giving him bad advice. And yes, I love Ahmad too, just like you guys. but the dude hasn't figured out the offense yet and how we want to run these plays. He's pointing to Delo, telling Mizraoui basically to go ahead and pass to Delo when actually he should be making a diagonal run. Now, it's okay if he decides not to, because that space he's in is actually not that bad. But what happens next is Xerxes notices that Ahmad didn't make the diagonal run, so Xerxes starts to make the diagonal run. Now, Maz has an option here. He could be passing to Xerxes, or he could be feeding Ahmad in that space. And if he feeds Ahmad in that space, then Ahmad has the choice of actually one touching it to Xerxes, who's making that run before he's offside, or turn and face towards Bruno, who should also make a diagonal run right after Ahmad receives the ball. But what happens? Maz goes with the Delo option that Ahmad was pointing at before, which kind of kills the ball because it takes us into a corner where nothing can happen. So Delo turns around and passes the ball back to Maz, which is okay. It sets us back up. We can start to build again. Now, Ahmad right here should realize he should have made a diagonal run in the first place, so he should make this diagonal run right now, which he does not. If he would have made that diagonal run, Maz could have either passed to him, or he could have taken the option to pass to Ugarte, who's got a little bit of space. And as soon as Ugarte receives the ball, even before he receives the ball, Menu should notice that and start to make his own diagonal run. And then Ugarte can either choose to pass to Menu, or that run should open up a clear lane for Ugarte to pass to Bruno, who would get in a very dangerous spot and be able to take a shot. None of these things happen, guys. None of them happen. Instead, Maz makes the cross, which is actually a pathetic cross. And there you go. That's our team. And that's why when you look at our manager's face or his assistant's face, they're probably sitting there wondering if there's any way they can get their job at Sporting back now that they just sacked their manager. I want to show you an image of the 18 zones on a football pitch. I think it's really important, and it'll make it easier for me to describe everything if you guys understand the 18 zones on a football pitch. So these are the 18 zones on a football pitch. The low numbers are your defensive end. The high numbers are your opponent's side of the field. So if you look over here, you'll realize that most of the time, every team is going to want to dominate zone 14 and 17. That'll be the opponent's side of the field right there in the center, right in front of the goal. But that is the hardest part of the field to dominate and to create chances out of, because that's where the opponent's defenses usually focus in on. That's where they have their best defenders, their Van Dijks, everybody who's a good defender is probably going to be over there. And they're trying to stop it, not make it easy for you to create a chance through zone 14 and 17. What Amorim likes to do is Amorim likes to get to zone 16 and 18, and usually with a very long ball. So get used to seeing long balls. When he was at Sporting, you would see Gyökeres make these runs to zone 16 and 18 countless times a game. Countless times a game. It was relentless, but it doesn't always have to be Gyökeres. It could be any one of the inside 10s. And there will be actual patterns that Amorim has set forth and taught his team to create openings in zone 16 and zone 18 for this striker to run into. I'll show you one right here. So this is when a wide player will check back. In this example, it'll be Garnacho, but you won't be able to see Garnacho because unfortunately he's just not in the picture here, but he will pop up in the picture after you see Rasmus make the run. And you'll notice that Garnacho has checked back. So the wide player will check back, which will open up zone 16 there for Rasmus to make a run into. And here it is. And Rasmus gets the long ball delivered to him in that zone. And we are all of a sudden, we went from our half of the field to being inside their box with one very safe pass. This is an example of where a long ball is actually a very safe ball, a very safe pass. That's why Amorim likes to play these balls. When you think long ball, you usually think it's a ball that's booted up and then there's going to be an aerial duel and two people are going to have to fight for it. Not necessarily. This is why he has these patterns that open up zone 16 and 18 to get these long balls. Now, you might also be thinking, why would he want to attack zone 16 and 18 so often? And why even there? Why not work something up centrally? Of course, everybody would love to work the ball up centrally. But like I said, that's the hardest way to penetrate another team. The easiest thing to do is to have a pattern like this to go to zone 16 and 18. This is one of the ways he makes sure that we don't lose games and we get the ball out of trouble and into the opponent's third in these spots that he wants them in. And there's a reason for that too. And it's actually pretty interesting. So come with me. Let's keep going. So the reason why I didn't show you the ending of those plays is because I wanted to show it to you with a play that we ran against Newcastle one time really successfully. And it starts like this. So this is us doing the same play. Licha sends the ball all the way out to Hoyland, who's making the diagonal run. Now, Hoyland takes a bad touch and turns the ball over right away. But here's the deal. Because of where we turned the ball over, we can now get into our press. And this is why in modern day football, pressing is super important. Now, one thing you will know about modern day football, and what this is the kind of play, by the way, that Jurgen Klopp was really good at. Now, why was Jurgen Klopp good at it? Because I believe he learned it from watching Ralf Rangnick's teams, because the person who does this a lot is a Ralf Rangnick team. That's who does these kind of things a lot. They want to send the ball in these areas of the field in the opponent's third so that in case it gets turned over, which most of the time it does, most of your attacks do not lead to goals. Most of your attacks lead to a turnover or a possession change. That's just the way, or else games would have like 20 goals in them. Most attacks lead to possession changes. Well, this is what he wants. He wants the possession to change there, unless we can create some sort of combination play, a 1-2 or a cross, and create a goal out of it. But if we don't, that's where we want the possession to change hands. So now Newcastle has the ball, and the defender passes it back to the goalkeeper. What this does is it triggers our press right away. Ahmad starts to make a curved run, so the goalkeeper's that option, he tries to take away the option of switching the ball. So now the goalkeeper passes it back into that trouble area where most of our other players are running into. And that's the reason why we have to have physical players, because the play went from Licha all the way to the striker within one pass. He bypassed the midfield and sent it all the way to the striker. Well, the other players all have to run and clog up that space because, like I said, most of the time, well, first of all, you're offering support so that the striker, if he gains control of the ball, has someone to pass to. But second of all, in case the striker does turn it over, you are there ready to cast a net and press. Again, this is like what Ralf Rangnick's teams love to do. They do these diagonal runs at the last third and they get the ball in those areas and they press. That's why I'm kind of familiar with it. That's why I spotted it when I first started watching Rúben Amorim play. And then I started seeing it recurring over and over again. Anyways, so we start to have our press, and now the Newcastle defenders have to figure out a way out. And they have a couple of passes. They string together a couple of passes, but really they end up with the ball trapped there with 5 of our defenders. Even Licha has moved all the way up to join in the press to make sure that every single Newcastle player has a person on him. And we actually even have one more person than they have. So we are there. We are ready to get them to turn over the ball. And that's exactly what happens. The Newcastle player tries to dribble in because he has no options to pass. Tries to dribble in, and then he tries the long pass, which actually gets blocked by Eriksen's foot. And then we get the ball back. Now, why do people love to press? Ralf Rangnick, I believe, was one of the people who originated this phrase that most goals are scored within 10 seconds of a transitional turnover, or a turnover, if you will. And that's why teams like Ralf Rangnick teams and Rúben Amorim teams like Manchester City, it doesn't matter, Liverpool, modern day football is trying to set up these kind of plays or situations so that they can trigger a press, gain the ball back in the opponent's half, and then there's a higher probability of getting a goal out of it than there is from stringing together 10 passes that slowly works its way up and scores a goal. Now, both ways are viable. And like I said, Rúben Amorim has more than just this tactic. This is just the one that I keep trying to talk to you guys about because I want to make sure I cover all aspects of it. And then I'll move on to more other tactics in future videos. Even in the FA Cup game against Leicester, we had opportunities to hit those zones, but we kept hitting the passes short. Here's a couple examples of the passes being short. And the one thing you don't do when you're trying to hit a pass to zone 16 or 18, you don't leave it short, because if you leave it short, 2 things happen. Number 1, and by the way, here's a play where Mazraoui leaves it short. And this, because he left it short and it got intercepted, is the reason why Leicester got their first shot on our goal. It was right after this that the ball advanced forward over Harry Maguire, passed back, and then a shot was taken, and Onana had to make the save. Now, the reason why you don't leave it short is exactly that, and let me explain why that's important. See, if you're trying to hit a ball to zone 16, it's better that you hit it too long and it goes out of bounds than leaving it short and it gets intercepted. Because if it is hit too long and it gets intercepted up there, or it goes out of bounds up there and they have a throw-in, then you can set up your press, because that is exactly what I've said in other videos, that zone 16 and 18, it's good if you get possession of the ball and you can try to make something happen or set up a cross. And if you don't end up with the ball and the other team gets the ball, it's the perfect place to set up a press. But if you leave it short, now they have the ball somewhere in the middle of the field, not trapped in the corner like there. And one or two passes later, they're going to get to run at your defense. And that's exactly what happens. So the last thing you want to do is leave that pass short. The good news is, and the bright stuff that I saw was, what's his name? Rasmus Højlund was finally getting it. Rasmus Højlund was running into zone 18 and zone 16 throughout the game. Rasmus Højlund was making the runs today. Now, that doesn't mean that the passes were good. They weren't, but one time it was really good. This one time, the pass was really good, and we get Rasmus in behind. I believe it was McGuire that sent the pass in. We get Rasmus in behind, and because of that sequence and because it was so good, we got 3 or 4 attempts on goal out of this sequence. I'm going to show them all one by one, and this all happened because of one sequence, all starting with a long ball to zone 18. Rasmus gets the ball. He cuts in the box. He goes around the player, finds a nice shot with his left foot. The rebound comes off. It goes to Garnacho, I believe. He gets the second shot, and then Delo has an opportunity at one point. I mean, the ball's in the mixer. It's in a dangerous zone. All of it happening because the run to zone 18 happened, and it was executed perfectly. Now, the beauty of it is, and I love this, that Rasmus actually called for it. If you look over here on the replay with a different camera angle, Rasmus points at zone 18, telling McGuire to send the ball to zone 18. This is so good. When I saw this, and this was early in the game, when I saw this, I started thinking, oh, okay, this is going to start a new run. We're going to put together a run. We're going to get some opportunities. We're going to start scoring, or at least finding a way around the goal, because this is exactly what Ruben wants. And it didn't happen. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but it's still a glimpse of what's to come. It's still a glimpse of, okay, so this is what he's trying to get the team to do. This is exactly what Sporting used to do when Ruben was over there, and we're starting to kind of see it. We're starting to kind of do it. But it's just not happening often enough. And unfortunately, way too often, those passes were still short, or just not good, or the timing was wrong, or a player like Delo, like I showed you earlier, wasn't making the run even though Bruno sent the ball. And stuff like that is still going on. We still need to get better. We still need to think faster. We still need to get better. One of the other examples that I really like seeing, because it's just like the way Sporting plays it. So when Sporting switches play from one side to the other and they're trying to get out of their own half, I've showed you this one before. The ball goes to a diagonal runner, a midfielder who's making a diagonal run from the inside to the outside. And as soon as he gets the ball, he sends it to the striker, which is Gyökeres, making that run right here. I mean, there is no time to waste. The midfielder makes a diagonal run. The defender gives him the pass. And then the very next pass, the midfielder sends the ball to Gyökeres, who's also making a diagonal run towards zone 16 or 18. We did kind of the same thing right here. Bruno Fernandes makes a diagonal run. The defender gets him the ball, and right away he tries to get it to Rasmus, who's also making a diagonal run. Again, a glimpse of Rúben Amorim's system starting to come into play. Rúben Amorim's style, I should say, or tactics starting to come into play. It wasn't bad to see. I know it's a horrible game. I just told you, I don't even watch the second half again. Even though there were moments like this in the second half too, that I could have pointed out and told you, like, hey, see, there's another one. But I just couldn't put myself through it. We just don't have the quality of player needed, even though the tactics are starting to come together, or maybe they're not really coming together, but they're coming together more than they used to. We still don't have the caliber of player to actually make those things turn into like deadly situations and goals. So there it is. There's everything that I have been talking about so far. The one thing I couldn't find is I had a video, I believe, where I talked a couple of minutes about what he wants to do against the low block. And for some reason, I just couldn't figure out which one of my videos that I posted that had that information. So I'm just going to tell it to you right now real quick without any like actual game footage, but you'll probably know what I mean when I say this. So basically against the low block, what he wants to do is set up triangles around zone 16 or zone 18. So he'll set up a triangle, and then the inside 10 on that side. Usually it's on the left side, and usually the inside 10 is Menu when we've actually pulled this off. We did it one time against Liverpool, and we did it a couple of times against another team that I can't remember right now. And basically the triangle is formed there. The ball circulates around that triangle, and then when Delo gives it to Bruno Fernandes, Menu takes off running towards the end line from the inside. Bruno Fernandes immediately gives him a ground pass. Manu runs to the end line and then makes the cutback pass. So it's still a triangle form to hit the inside 10, making a diagonal run. And at some point, that inside 10 is going to get down low by the end line so he can make a cutback pass to either the striker or the other inside 10 who's going to make a diagonal run towards the center of the box where there should be some open space. So it's still kind of the same idea, but it's against a low block. So the triangles have to be kind of formed first. And then, because when you're playing against a low block, you get to move more numbers forward. You form those triangles and you find a way to make a same thing, diagonal run in all the way to the end line, cut back pass, which actually works really well. So his tactics are actually not that complicated. They're pretty simple. The reason why you see him so frustrated all the time is because it really doesn't take a genius to run these things. We just got the wrong profile players, which is what I was saying at the end of that video. We don't have the right profile players for these things. Rasmus is starting to get better at figuring out what he needs to do. He also needs to be better at the hold-up play, because sometimes when we can't hit zone 16 and 18, we're going to give a ball to Rasmus, who's supposed to hold it up and pass it back to either the wing back or one of the midfielders. And if it's the wing back that he passes it to, then one of the inside 10s takes off running to zone 16 because the wing back is going to suck a defender back. Or if he gives it to the inside 10, then the wing back runs up to zone 16 or 18, by the way. I'm just saying, but that would mean Rasmus has to get better at hold-up play to do that. So let's talk about what's going on in the news right now, because we need better quality players. We need players who fit his system, and they need to be at a better quality. So the cool thing is, and what I've been reading a lot on Twitter, is that we are looking to kind of have like a pre-agreement for Giovanni Quenda and to have an understanding of what's going to be needed to sign Osimhen. So I think these two players, Quenda and Osimhen, are obviously our first choice, top choice for right wing back and for striker. I want you to remember that, because what I've been always complaining about in past videos, if you've been with me for over a year, then you would know this. In past videos, I've been complaining about how our managers don't get their first choice signings. And in this case, when it comes to Giovanni Quenda, he's definitely for sale. When it comes to Osimhen, he's definitely for sale. So it's going to come down to INEOS and their bargaining power, and also like their ability or want to spend money. Because the one thing I worry about when it comes to INEOS is how frugal they are, and how much I don't know if they're going to buy his first choices or if they're going to deem their first choice signing 10 million too expensive or 5 million too expensive. So we're going to go with your second choice. The problem is this, like, I believe if he really got his first choice striker, it would probably be Gyökeres. But I don't think that's possible. Maybe he's too expensive. Maybe he's too old. So Osimhen might already be his second choice. Really, think about it. Well, I want to say Osimhen's his first choice, but I'm only saying Osimhen's his first choice because I don't think Gyökeres is an option for some reason. And that option might be because they deem him too old, even though he's only a year older than Osimhen, or they deem him too expensive, which I'm not sure he's going to be, because Osimhen's going to be the same kind of price. I don't know, or maybe Gyökeres just doesn't want to come to Manchester United. But I have a feeling, all things being considered, if Gyökeres was an option, that he would be Rúben Amorim's first choice. It just makes sense. He's done so well under Amorim, and he already knows everything Amorim wants him to do. Whereas Osimhen's kind of a risk, right? Because Amorim doesn't really know him. Now, don't get me wrong, Osimhen has a great track record, so he's not really that risky, but he's still a risk compared to somebody you already know. So we're going to wait and see and find out if we're going to get Quenda and Osimhen, because other than those two, I'm sure they're going to bring in other players, right? But we just don't hear about the other players as often. We've heard about Ederson in the past and stuff like that. But right now, I'm focusing on Quenda and Osimhen, because what I want to say and what I want us to all keep in mind is this is definitely their first choice. And I definitely want to see INEOS sign our first choice targets from now on. I didn't like in the look. I love Ugarte, but I didn't like in the summer that João Neves was Erik ten Hag's first choice, and they ended up getting him Ugarte. And there were stories about how they had to convince Erik ten Hag to want to sign Ugarte, because I think Erik ten Hag was convinced on João Neves because João Neves has more, let's say, technical skills. He's much better on the ball than Ugarte is. Ugarte is a better destroyer, let's say, but Erik ten Hag wanted somebody who can be a little bit better on the ball. But by the way, João Neves is also a magnificent defensive midfielder. He does great. He even wins. The guy's like this tall, and he wins every aerial duel he's in. It's amazing how smart he is and how he moves his body around and how he uses his weight to get taller guys to miss the ball so he can get it when it comes to an aerial duel. So that guy's great. He's fantastic. He was our first choice signing. He's 10 million too expensive. So we end up getting Ugarte for 10 million less from PSG, and PSG gets our first choice signing. I don't want that to happen anymore. And by the way, that's just one example. I can go years and years back and give you examples of how we didn't get our first choice signing for our managers. Just the year before that, what's his name? De Jong, we get Casemiro, right? And Casemiro has proven to be a really bad signing. It hurts me to say it because I'm actually a fan of Casemiro's, not this version of Casemiro. I'm talking about the Real Madrid, much younger version of Casemiro. I was a big fan, but yeah, it pains me to see him play the way he's playing, especially in Manchester United. I think by now he should have been like an MLS or some other league. But anyways, that's not the point. We can go back years. Other managers didn't get their first choice signings. We've heard about it for years and years. Right now, we know that this summer, our first two targets are Giovanni Quenda and Osimhen. I really want to see both of them come in. I don't want to have a backup. I don't want to hear, oh, he's 5 million too expensive, so we're going to get this guy because we're broke, because the Glazers killed us and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. That's not my problem. That's their job. Their job is to figure this out and back the manager with his first choice signings, or else this is never going to work. We're going to keep doing this every year, cycle after cycle, where we don't get managers the stuff they need. Now, in bad news, Casemiro, the guy I just talked about, doesn't want to leave. He's more than happy to sit on the bench and collect a big fat paycheck for one more season. So we're not going to be able to get him off our wage bill. That's really bad news. Now, in good news, Antony's playing pretty good at La Liga, and Rashford is playing all right. Even though he hasn't started a game and played 90 minutes yet, he's playing all right for Aston Villa. We shouldn't be wishing him like ill will or whatever, like bad luck or bad. I want Rashford to play well. I want everybody who goes out on loan, who we own, to play well because we need to collect money for them. And even better news, somebody I didn't even think about for a while. We've been seeing on Twitter that Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and PSG might be interested in buying Mason Greenwood, which basically means 50% of whatever they pay comes to us, and that's straight profit. That is really cool. So if they're willing to pay 50 or 60 and we make 25 or 30 million profit off the sale of Mason Greenwood, that's like selling, an academy kid for 30 million. So that's going to be really good for us. That could fund Acuna, maybe. That could fund that could pretty much fund Giovanni Quenda, so we can get our first choice signing for right wing back. Guys, leave it in the comments. Tell me what you think about this video. Was it good to watch all this tactic stuff over again? Did it refresh your memory? For the new guys, welcome to the channel. Drop a like or subscribe. Watch some old videos if you'd like. Stick around, and everybody, please try to make it to bigup.com if you can on Friday if you're not busy. 9:30 a.m. my time, 5:30 p.m. England time. It's going to be fun, and thank you for joining me once again. I will see you soon. Drop it in the comments. Get at me. I love reading your comments. Bye.